Awesome. So we'll go ahead and kick things off. Before we start, do a quick round of intros of who we are and what we do here at Storesight. And so, to everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Chris Payton Barba. I work on the customer success team here at Storesight, and I will be hosting today's conversation. Today's conversation, we're going to be calling this No More Flying Blind, a produce industry playbook for retail visibility. And so if you are in the produce industry or really in focused on any category where you felt like you're guessing about, hey, what's happening, what's going on at shelf between my store visits, then this conversation will be a great one for you. And so, like I mentioned, before we kick off, go ahead and do a quick round of intros and give a little context on who we are here at StoreSight. And so, StoreSight is a retail intelligence company. We're here to help brands get real-time, always-on visibility into what's happening at shelf, instead of relying on in-store audits, shopper insights, or product trials, things that might only give you a snapshot of what's going on in the market every few weeks or every couple of months. And so today, as we kick off, I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Ray Wowrick. And so Ray is a produce industry expert and is a founder of RSW Marketing. Ray's been consulting across produce brands and associations for decades at this point. And so he's also been one of our most active users. And so love to give Ray a hard time about how he is our top user of StoreSight. So he's up there amongst the greats there at StoreSight from a user standpoint. So with that knowledge, he'll also be able to bring us some industry veteran views as well as the true hands-on user experience across StoreSight. And so with that, Ray, thank you again and welcome.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's a pleasure to join you on this webinar. As you indicated, I've been around the block a little bit in the fresh world. Fortunate enough to work in all aspects of the supply chain when it comes to fresh, from the wholesale level to the buyer level, retail, grower level, supply distribution, not only domestically but globally as well, entering into a variety of different areas of supply chain, so to speak. My my recent interest within the fresh produce industry has been really focused on that last food mile, and that last food mile is the showcase and the arena floor of where we perform at store level. And with the fresh produce environment, freshness counts. It's important that we understand the journey of our commodities and our fruit, and the expectations that the consumers are looking for each and every time they go shopping at store level. The experience matters. AI can make things faster, but it's not trusted as a whole. AI supports it, but it gives us a little bit more visibility when we have new technology that comes into place that can provide maybe real-time actionable activity out there on the floor. So I've been somewhat of a geek when it comes to new technology and testing the environments, whether it this platform, StoreSight, or the field agent environment. There's GigWalk. There's all sorts of stuff that's been out there, but I found this platform the most adaptable and most usable within our field, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. Thanks for the insight there. So we'll go ahead and kind of kick off and get a little more understanding of how you're using StoreSight in your day to day and some of the benefits, especially across the produce and the fresh markets. And so we want to look at this at kind of a broad level here and start to understand, hey, as you consult across a wide range of brands and associations, how different has the retail landscape looked today versus when you started in the market, and what's been the biggest structural shift that brands have seen and had to adapt to over time?
Well, Chris, as I shared with you in our earlier conversations, when I started off in this industry in the mid 90s, on my initial journey into the fresh world, uh, I still recall the day celebrating the fact that we reached 300 items within a produce department. And, that was a big achievement back then. And that was at the early stages of expanding varieties and getting into bag salads and more convenient, more prepared product. It was at the early stages of that. Today, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5,000 items in the produce department, all depending on what platform you're at. So there's a very competitive landscape out there. And unfortunately, uh, in the perishable lane of fresh produce, our pockets from in respect to marketing dollars aren't as readily available as they are in the center store aisles with the big CPG companies. So it's imperative that we find avenues and ways to look at how do we gain greater visibility and greater uh, resources to become a differentiator in the produce environment. And this is the one platform that I found that helps lead us in that direction.
Yeah, so definitely insightful, especially with that fresh produce industry and your perishables with so much turnover and lots of different changes from season to season. Needing to be able to see that always on kind of quick view, real in store visibility is something that can be kind of detrimental to the business as far as being able to always understand, hey, this is real deal. What's going on?
Right.
And so when you start to think about visibility and what it used to cost, as far as being able or needing to get out, drive to individual stores, maybe jump on a plane, fly to a different market, and visit 3 to 5 stores, I want to understand, hey, looking back at that model, what did you actually get from that? What did you actually gain? And where did you start to realize that, hey, this isn't going to scale, or maybe some of this information might be dated by the time I can take action on it?
Well, we talked about some of the changes earlier, in regards to obviously number of SKUs and the size of the produce department. But the other thing that has also changed is the mergers and acquisitions and the nationalization of major chains across the country. And if you're a marketer or grower, you're likely servicing a market that is not in your immediate back door. So the cost of just entering in or getting into those markets on a regular basis has been, in recent days with the cost of gas and flights and hotels and all that, uh, has has risen and creates challenges in regards to getting resources and people out to various markets to assess what's really happening. And it's really not real time. I still recall, getting out to, flying down to Florida and going to Orlando and then jumping in a car and trying to hit as many stores as you can. Uh, there's limitations there, and you have a tendency of rushing through, and you may not capture it, what the total thing is we're trying to assess in the marketplace. The other thing is too is when you go and visit various markets or you're going store visits, if you're not visiting their competitors, your partner's competitors, you're not totally understanding what's happening with your business because their competitors are your competitors. And if you want to have a bit of an edge on growing your business with your partner, you have to understand their pain points, and that's one of the advantages of having a platform that not only gives you visibility of the chains or the markets or retailers that you're working with, but it also gives you some visibility on the competitive landscape, so to speak. Uh, and that's on one element of the process, but for me, the big uh, play here is the ability to take the platform and utilize it internally with your own team members, because that gives you your own environment of sharing information and sharing knowledge in regards to improving your brand, enhancing your brand, or addressing inconsistencies out there that occur. Growers are very proud producers, and marketers are proud of their brands that they package out there. But they're like everything else in life. We send our kids out to play in the playground, and we all assume they're playing nice. But sometimes they misbehave out there. So it's important to have that visibility.
I'll say you touched on a few different things there as far as uploading photos, really getting the team involved internally. So we'll dive into that a little deeper in just a few minutes. But in addition to some of those different tools and partnering with your growers and some of those retailers, um, really getting into some of the different brands and understanding, hey, we do have digital shelf intelligence. Are there any other ways that brands can take advantage of this digital shelf intelligence tool that they may not have been able to in the past, or any big discoveries that maybe weren't quite as visible previously as they are today?
Well, getting the attention of your 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 buyers, your category managers, your VPs of various organizations is quite challenging nowadays because of their time elements. And you know, information has to have value. And what I find that in utilizing a platform such as this, it seeds opportunity and seeds ideas and develops questions. And when you're able to develop questions that maybe the other individual wasn't never thought of or possibly uh, didn't consider, it creates opportunity to develop new strategies, new ideas. In addition to that, if something's happening negatively within the department, within a category, it also gives you that leverage to say, hey, from a trusted advisor, building yourself as a trusted advisor, you're able to suggest that, hey, this is what I'm saying. We may be a bit over skewed. The location of this premium is adjacent to a value-added, price-sensitive commodity that's taking away the attention. Maybe we need to separate it, so to speak. So when you're able to speak on that behalf, so to speak, this information is just extremely valuable.
Yeah, I'd say I think again you kind of alluded to some of the different value points and how this tool can help create curiosity within the market and kind of help you push for different opportunities, especially gaining that trust with those buyers. um, Using that data to create curiosity instead of just kind of confirming what is already available or confirming a hypothesis. What does it look like when teams are using data the wrong way, and what does it start to look like when teams start to get that data utilization correct, and they're really being able to push that data and grow in their market or across their brand or their category?
There's a lot of demand for data, and uh, that data is being not only requested by your partners on a more frequent basis, but it's also a means of which gives you that opportunity to gauge your business. However, uh, I've looked at this in a different perspective when it comes to data. Data is an indicator that gives you a sense of further evaluation. And that evaluation becomes a need for you to have greater accessibility to a visual part of that business, so to speak. And so you can align the visual aspect to what the data is saying. If you're overskewed, it'll show it on your digital. If your shelves are empty, it's going to show on your visual. If the quality isn't up to snuff, you're going to have some opportunity there to address that. If it's a location issue, there's a number of things that come into play here. So, like I said, alignment with data, with the ability to take this to a next level, it provides a little bit more differentiation. The other challenge we face right now, and I've experienced it over the recent years, is the fact that most data is based on a previous 4 to 13 or 12-week activity or 24-week activity. When you have immediate visibility of what's happening at the various markets, it gives you greater agility to address something in an immediate area, or it raises awareness of something you didn't know, right? If you have a promotion happening out there and that promotion is conflicting with something that you weren't aware of, it maybe gives you that opportunity to pick up the phone during at that time frame and speak with the category manager or the buyer and say, hey, you know what, this is what I'm seeing. What do you, has this, was this part of the planogram or was this part of the program or whatnot? Had we been aware, maybe we could have done things a little differently. But how do we maximize this now going forward type thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Say, as far as some real examples from your experience and your time in the industry, um, can you walk us through a real example? Let's say you see something in store site that either catches your attention, maybe a photo that again catches your attention. Maybe you have some POS data or a different metric you're seeing in the visuals that's looks off. What's your next step, or what are your next actions that you take once you find that insight through those visuals?
As a when you're when you're working with a partner, a customer, meaning someone who buys on occasion from you, or a prospect. Prospect is even more important, but because it gives you an opportunity to seed conversation with them. But if you see something that's occurring out there, something that's different, like what you're showing on screen here right now is a version of a tomato bar that uh, it created an opportunity for me to take this image and send out a note to the category manager saying, "Hey, great job." But the reality is, this is for me personally. This has been something that we seeded maybe 10 years ago as an idea of taking a commodity like snacking tomatoes and creating an environment like an olive bar where people go and select a variety of different things. So this created a conversation, and that although that individual, that vendor or that retailer is not a customer, it shows that I have interest and I'm continuing to learn and monitor their business, so that when that opportunity comes, he's going to know that I know enough of that business that maybe I could be trusted enough to be given an opportunity, so to speak. At the same token, I the first photo you shared there, I sent that off to a field buyer in California, and I said, "Hey, here's something that I saw on my store visit this week. Uh, Something to share with the grower out there. Tell him, all his efforts that he's doing at his end. This is what's happening at the retail end." So that he can understand that there's an investment on both sides. He's making a significant investment, and you're making an investment in promoting that product, so to speak. So it has a multiple of different ways of utilizing that information. And again, it's real time. It's not like, hey, I went back and I found this 2, 3 months ago, right? This happened this week or on my visit type thing, and you shared it with them. You know.
Yeah, again, I think that feeds into your point of being that expert and gaining that trust from that partner or relaying that onto the buyer, and again providing more and more visibility that they simply just aren't privy to or don't have that ability uh, to get that insight.
Chris, the majority of the people that are buying in these national chains or whatnot have never been in their market that they're buying produce for. They're very seldom to get out on the road and see what's happening out there. So, if you want to have some longevity and some value of retaining that relationship, you've got to provide support for that category buyer or the VP of produce, perishables. Give them some opportunity to take that information and validate that their efforts are going in the right direction as well, because they may not see that immediately within. They see data like we do. They see things ups and downs. Hey, why are my oranges down in sales, but my apples are up? Well, what happened during that transition week? Oh, we moved apples up to the front of the department, and we moved the citrus to the back because it's apple season now. So there's a lot of things that do happen within the produce world that just kind of reminds you or gives you that sense of, hey, we're on track.
I think the visual aspect of it too really kind of eliminates any fallacies or doubts or any skewing of data or misrepresentations of data as well, because hey, that picture's real deal. That's exactly what's happening in store. And so again, continuing to layer on, hey, we have visual evidence and proof of what's actually happening around you.
What I like about this is by utilizing the field agent teams that are going out there and accessing this data for us or these visual for us in store site. Uh, what we fail, what we don't realize is they're actually consumers. And when you get a visual picture from these individuals, they're not staged photos. They're showing you what the consumer is seeing. And to me, that is extremely important as well.
Yeah, yeah, that great point there, especially because we send our field teams out. They go in. You always get a good clean view of that planogram or that produce set, whatever it may be. And in reality, we all know that hey, that's not always the case. That
Sure.
shelf or that bin or that wet bar is not always looking that great. And so again, this unbiased, real, raw view of what's happening at shelf every day when that customer is making that decision on, hey, what do I want to buy today? And so again, great view to be able to jump in and see that real raw view of the shelf.
The other thing that StoreSite provides, Chris, that uh, may be overlooked is the fact that uh, when you go across the country and you're looking at a retail chain in Florida that has a similar banner in Ohio or in California, you get a sense of what's different between they carry the same commodities, but what are those marketers or those people that are servicing those areas? What are they doing different, or what difference are you seeing in the merchandising applications in those various markets? And I can, one of the major retailers across the country, I'm I see what they're doing in Florida, and it's a totally different story than what they're doing in maybe an area of Michigan, so to speak. So that prompts me to turn around and say, hey, maybe next time I'm in that market, I want to drill in a little deeper on what I'm seeing. But at the same token, it seeds questions with your category manager. Hey, what how can we mimic this in our region? Because I like what they're doing in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. I think that leads us to our next point here. Since you are going out, you are physically seeing some of these different markets, and you are able to relay that information um, back from region to region or state to state. You've talked about using some of these images to have better in-store conversations with buyers. You've mentioned to me and some of our other team that hey, um, your team has gone out and shared photos with Costco buyers while you've taken photos in Japan or other international markets, and then they've been able to utilize those in-store images or those international images with those Costco buyers. Can you walk us through that and what kind of picture that painted for that Costco team or some of those other retailers with that extended view into those international markets?
Well, we all travel, and you know, I've been, it's just been in my DNA when I travel to markets. As you alluded here, I've been in Japan and been in Japan a couple times. Recently in Barcelona and Australia and Europe. Uh, the one thing that we know is that the produce world is a global world now. So understanding what's happening in different markets and sharing that with your partner community uh, can be vital. Again, it leads you in a sense of, uh, hey, did you know? Or this is what I see. I've got some ideas here. Can we collaborate a little bit more? Or, this is this is how we're, it's a means of measuring as well. Uh, and also feeds ideas of, hey, why not? I recently uh, uh, acknowledged the fact that there's some pretty unique stuff happening outside North America, and a lot of it's got to do with the fact that uh, we've we've really not right-sized our commodities, our categories to align with today's consumers and millennials and Generation Z's, who are looking at food waste as a big priority in their life. And we need to look at right sizing our fruits to a point where the portions are aligned with what they want to do with that meal, or that meal solution deals with that day to day stuff. They're not, they're the supersizing or the value added still has a play, but more and more we're seeing a lot more people shopping more frequently at the store. So feeding ideas and sharing those ideas out there. Again, hey, how could we differentiate ourselves here in North America from our competitor across the street, or differentiate ourselves from one marketer to another and saying, hey, this is something is an idea I have, and I'd like to explore or maybe have a conversation with somebody who wants to align with this idea.
Yeah, so, right. I think that feeds into some of the other points also, whether that be a center store, typical CPG brand, or in some of your fresh produce categories, just helping us understand too, hey, what trends are taking place outside of North America? What differences are we seeing on shelf or in our fresh produce?
Well, the one thing for sure we know we've got our consumers are more empowered with information than ever before. They have access to greater information than ever before. So when it comes to uh, getting their attention, they already know what they want. They want good, fresh, nutritional, quality fruit, and they're going to align with the brands and those individuals that perform each and every day for them on a consistent basis. Now, agriculture does have its challenges at times through production issues or whatnot, but for the most part, consumers will reward quality based on what they know and what they experience and what they trust. And that's what we're trying to do each and every day is win their trust. Uh, so in order for you to be a good marketer or a good vendor to your partners, you want to be able to uh, be honest and trust that you're evaluating your performance the same way a consumer is. And I think back to the days that I first started off in the industry, and back then we talked about the individuals that worked with were called fruit men. Individuals that's what they lived and breathed, so to speak. And the initial comment that was given to me that it's so relevant in today's world is the fact that when you look at something, when you pick something up, and you look at it with your eyes, you smell it, you embrace it in the fashion of a consumer, you really want to say to yourself, would you buy this? Because that's what the consumer would say to himself. Would I buy this? Right? And when they buy that, they also have to have that experience as well. So in order to stay on top of this and to be um, very effective on making change where needed, sometimes if it's a color mix, a quality maturity mix that can be addressed at farm level, you're going to want to get on top of it immediately. And if you can have that visibility greater at store level, when it does appear on the shelf like that, you can take action more quickly.
Yeah, so right. I think this all ties back into you being one of our top active users within StoreSite, and so you keep mentioning being able to see the different mixes on shelf, being able to be that partner, be that expert within your industry. And so, with you being one of our most active users across StoreSite, you're like you've mentioned, you're constantly uploading photos internationally around the world, even while you're out of office on vacation. But you've also mentioned how it's been pretty difficult to get the rest of some of your teams to do the same and upload those photos and be consistent. And so, one thing we're wondering is why is adoption such a hard behavior to change? And what does leadership need to do to actually move the needle and make that impact and get that adoption moving?
Anytime you invest in a platform like StoreSite, and even if it's a CRM system or whatever, um, from a leadership standpoint, you have to have uh, buy-in vertically, where each department head has a responsibility of accountability of whatever uh, does align with their roles of the operation. And you once you have that adoption of leadership vertically, then you can extend it horizontally to your team members. And then when that leadership has acknowledgement and a willingness to participate and lead in those areas, and then you have greater adoption going across. But when you have if you have a marketing department that comes in and say, "Hey, I love StoreSet. I'd like to invest in this program." In the short term, within the marketing department, it's going to have some excitement and some buy-in. But if you don't have other departments who are responsible for packaging, quality control, transportation, cold chain management, all those things, everybody plays a key part in the perishable environment. And every time you look at a series of photos, whether it's coming from the store audits or whether it's coming from your own team members, it's something out of line. There's always somebody in that lane of responsibility that has an opportunity to own that. So to me, that needs, if anybody is seeking an opportunity to inherit a program such as this, that is extremely vital. Just have that, and then it makes the investment more valuable because you've got other departments saying, "Hey, you know what? I see this. I'm responsible for the packaging, and if my packaging isn't consistent through the buyers." The other thing you have too, when it comes to globalization of fresh produce, you have producers and you have growers that are producing in different areas. You have different areas of buying packaging supplies from different vendors. And if they don't align, your brand doesn't look consistent on the shelf. So there's another reason why, it provides greater continuity within your internal operation.
I think another way to add on to that is Ray, since you were always out taking pictures, you are always out taking pictures. Same with members of your teams, it's essentially a force multiplier. And so if we're needing to see more and more visibility across the southern region and say we have five teammates down there, let's continue to hammer those stores and get even more store visibility from there. And so if we're already in those stores, take those pictures, find some different insights, get hands on product and continue to make that impact internally.
What I think too, Chris, which is something we haven't touched on, you and I can probably have another webinar on this, is the opportunity to customize specific uh, jobs or assignments. And it when you have new item launches, when you have an investment in new packaging, uh, and you're trying to ensure that execution is followed through, or you have a greater understanding of whether or not you've got the right concept in place. Uh, you know, customization of some of these store site visits or the field agent visits can be extremely helpful as well. I've I've used with the Canadian version of Field Agent and US Field Agent. I've used try and buy, and there's a variety of different ways of leveraging that stuff to enhance the ability to not only validate what you're doing as a vendor or as a grower, as a supplier, but support the efforts that category manager has given you to enter into that door, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's something I know we've partnered together on as far as running individual customized projects, not to derail us too much, but it's something we can do. That's kind of how we started our business and something we're very strong at and can turn around those quick results. But very impactful, especially if you are digging around in store site and you see something that says, "Hey, I think I need to dig a little bit deeper in this, but I can't get out to Florida or Georgia, whatever the case may be." And so we can always get in that deeper level of inspection and get those visuals from there.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, say one more question for you, Ray, as we're coming up on time, is for anybody who's out there listening today, who knows their team isn't fully utilizing their data that's available to them. Where would you urge them to start? Where would you start if you were in that position?
Every time you're uploading or you're visiting a store, seek something in that content to share with somebody within your organization. Create a conversation, good or bad. It's not necessarily suggesting that somebody is out there within your organization that may not be performing. It's maybe just as simply of making them aware that we're all in it together. And if, in order for us all to succeed as an organization, each department has to have greater visibility and greater awareness of what's going on. If you see something new and unique out there in the packaging world, like you've got on the screen here right now, hey, there are certain vendors out there that are doing stuff out there that deserve acknowledgement. And you know what? Acknowledge it within your own group too, saying, hey, you know what? We've talked about doing something like this. Um, have we? Where are we at with ours? Is it? Is this a better? Do we have a better mousetrap that we're still developing? And maybe we should get this going quicker, so to speak. So, yeah, you just share a little bit more. Share it with your customers. Create some dialogue. Create it with your partners. Create it with the produce environment as well, because um, the key to our industry is consumption, and consumption will lead us towards a healthier uh, community, healthier lifestyle, and it's a form of feeding ourselves in a way where we are less dependent on supplements and the need to visit the doctor on a frequent basis because we're not looking after our health. So this is all about health.
Yeah. So, Ray, this has been awesome hanging out with you again, getting to talk a little bit more about the fresh and perishable industry. And so, again, want to thank you so much for your time today and being able to carve out some time and join us here. And so, thank you again for being open with that experience and your historical knowledge and current knowledge across your industries and categories. And so, again, to everybody that's out here watching, if any of this resonated with us today, or any of you all, if you're still relying on the old model of store visits and wanting to see what your category looks like with that always on visibility, whether that be your center store, typical CPG, or your fresh goods and perishables, um, we'd love to take some time, walk you through what that would look like in our day-to-day setting. And so in the chat there's a link to help schedule a personalized demo, learn a little bit more about StoreSite and how we can help you in your day-to-day. And so again, want to take that time, again, thank everybody for joining today, and we'll see you next time on the next webinar.
And Chris, before we close off here, if anybody would like to be in contact with me, please look me up on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to extend any more of my experience that I've had with this.
Awesome, Ray, thank you again, and we will see you on the next one.
Super. Take care.